Let's paint this awesome orange dog in watercolor and ink. The reference photo and tracing for this super cute orange dog are in the video's description. Today I am painting on Fabriano Studio 140 pound cold press paper. I planned out my colors ahead of time. This photo really spoke lime green, pink, orange to me. So I knew I wanted to use those three colors, integrate those colors into it. I'm definitely probably going to use purple also in the shadows and the tongue and the nose. And then I just wanted you to see the neutrals that I'll also incorporate. So I'm going to probably use some ultramarine blue next to the reflections in the eyes, of course neutral tint, and then my brown, which is transparent brown oxide from Daniel Smith. And that is just right now my substitute for quinacridone gold. So my mixes, I have my purple is my opera pink plus ultramarine blue. My green is azo yellow plus ultramarine blue. And then I have my brown, my transparent brown oxide, plus azo yellow. All the supplies I'm using in today's video are in this PDF that you can get at paint333.com. And because it's pen and ink, I'll be using my favorite ink pen, the Uniball Deluxe. I'm going to just dive right in. You can see that I've refined the tracing quite a bit. And just when I do that, I just want to make sure I refine the nose and the eyes and sometimes the tongue and make sure I get those really important features drawn out well enough that will allow me to paint with greater ease because I just know where I'm putting the paint a little bit better. I'm hoping to achieve a fast painting today. This is kind of a practice painting for me. I'm going to be painting live for a really cool fundraiser event in May for the Bond Between. They're a local pet rescue. And I'm going to be doing it in a pen and ink style because that will allow me to do it faster, just because I'm going to have so many to do. So I'm just going to keep my eye on the reference photo. And what I'm doing is I'm going to basically outline the whole thing in ink using kind of a sketchy style. So yes, it will be outlined, but if I outline it in too stiff of a fashion, it'll end up looking cartoony. And I want it to look sketchy. I'm not necessarily painting or inking in all the shadows because I'm going to do that with watercolor. But I do want this sketchy look, so I am going to use my ink pen to outline these really cool details. And the other thing that's cool about ink pens too is you can allow it to skip and not have completely solid lines, and that will also help you to achieve that sketchy look. So you don't have to completely fill in every single detail, but again, when you're asking, how do you know what to draw out right now? And that's a really good question, is I just try to keep in mind outlines. I'm thinking outlines. But again, you don't have to completely fill in every single detail. Just have fun, experiment with kind of a way of sketching that really helps you enjoy the sketchy process. So I'm going to keep sketching this, and I'm going to speed up the video. I won't speed it up too much because I think it will be helpful for you to see how I approach this sketchy look. But I will speed it up a little bit. And you can, of course, also speed up the video speed on your end on YouTube and skip ahead or do whatever you like to make this a great experience for you for learning and seeing how I approach this pen and ink process. I really like that amount of sketching for now, but we can always go in and do more. You can see too, I did some kind of sketch shading and I added water. It didn't run quite as much as I was expecting to, so we can go in and do that fun stuff with paint. I just want to show you how fun it is to incorporate splatter when you're doing pen and ink. And normally I would save this for the end. I still think it's not a bad idea to do so. After the painting dried and I took a step back, I thought that this shape over here just seemed a little too dark for me. So I ended up lifting it and then adding kind of a little glaze, more geometric in shape, of purple. I really like that addition, that change that I made, so I just wanted to let you know ahead of time, before you paint that shape too dark, that I think it looks a little bit better being more purple than black and a little bit on the lighter side. Man, when you're just feeling it and you're having fun, you just kind of want to go for it, and I was feeling it. I am having fun. All right. So I have my neutral tint. I'm using my Princeton Black Velvet brush. And the splatter just got a little juicy, so I'm kind of blending it in because that area was still wet. So like I said, we can come in and do more at the end, but I just love how splatter looks when you incorporate it with pen and ink. It's so beautiful. All right, I do like starting with, as I do with my other portraits, with the eyes. So I still have a little bit of quinacridone gold, so I am going to utilize that. Otherwise, I would just use my transparent brown oxide. So I'm just going to paint the irises. I mean, normally, if you've painted along with me before, you've seen that I typically paint all the black areas of an eye first. But we kind of did that. We kind of gave ourselves those outlines that I like to start with. Super fun. We'll let those irises dry. I'm thinking purple for the nose. So let's see. Let's add some water. I'm just painting with water. So this is what I would call the step 1 in my 3-step process, where you paint with water. Next we drop in color. So I have my purple, which is, there's some residual cobalt teal in here, but basically it's ultramarine blue and opera pink. I'm gonna have my dark side be the right side, this side. So this is step 2, we're dropping in color, and then we finish with texture techniques, which we won't have as many of those, being that this is our pen and ink painting. I'm gonna drop in some opera pink too, towards the light side, and then grab a purplier or a bluer purple for the dark side of the nose. I like to have kind of a different brush for each color. So this brush I typically leave just for water. So I'm going to just put in a little bit more water to give this paint permission to move around a little bit more. Dropping in some water here too. It'll just dry in so much prettier ways if we give it a lot of water to work with. So let's go and do the tongue. I'll do the same thing. I'm gonna go ahead and paint the tongue with just water. And two, as we're going, I just wanna make sure if I can remind myself enough to leave the light side underpainted. That's what I'm going for. So pretty purple shadow at the top of the tongue. And then it's going to dive into really beautiful orange color at the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and add in my azo yellow. And then I have a grainer brush, and I'm just going to blot it with water and pull some of that color into the top of the tongue, because we can still have a little bit of texture, even though this is a fast, dramatic portrait. I'm going to drop in a little bit of water here. Again, just so we have some fun things happening over here. I'm going to drop in a little water on the dark side and let some of this paint seep into it. And I'm going to take my quinacridone gold and try to paint the dark areas that I see here. So I am kind of painting the darkest darks and a little bit of the midtones. And I'm going to come in, I think, with purple. It'd be more fun to do this with my grainer brush, I think. I'm going to switch over to my grainer brush. And I'm going to put a lot down at the bottom here. So I'm just trying to paint around those highlights. I don't want to paint the highlights. I'm just doing the darkest areas and the midtones and adding some water. Let's see, I think I can do a little bit. I'm going to grab some purple for down here. Kind of this area that I painted black. Not so intentionally. It's funny because we are going to use green in this painting, but I don't like how that looks a little green right where that gold meets the black. So purple will save the day if you're getting green where you don't want it to be. So really watery mix. Again, adding more water there. We're going to let that hang out and flow down a little bit. I'm going to do a little bit more purple right where it meets that gold because I just don't want it to be green right there. And I'm going to go ahead and get some water and lift some of this quinacridone that we had and bring it into the light side a little bit. We're really not trying to paint the light side too much. So we'll see if we can achieve a really cool look doing it this way. Add a little bit quinacridone right where it's dark. And let it run. Let it run into the shadow on the body down here. And more purple. Right in the shadow area. See if I can kind of pull some of that purple to create some dimension on the mouth. And even a little bit of negative painting, maybe. Get some negative painting happening. And now I'm just adding some water too. Seeing if I can maybe connect the dots, not too much. I really like how that looks really sketchy down there, so I didn't want to do too much. And actually looks really good for the light side. Maybe a little bit of quinacridone on my grainer brush right along the furry edges here. And some of this quinacridone too, I think he's got an ear right there, which is kind of hint that that's an ear. And that he's got an ear over here. on making it a little bit waterier. I'm hoping to put some green over on the light side. We'll see if that happens. Let's maybe drop a little bit of purple up here too, just to give this tongue a lot of dimension. And we can even put a little bit of purple and pink in the gums. And then I cleaned my brush off, and I'm just going to come in with water now to move the pigment we put down around. I'm going to leave a little white outline if I can in some places. I think that looks really nice. Let's do a similar thing on this side, kind of painting around the teeth and then moving that pigment we just laid down just with some water. Maybe leaving a little bit of a white space there. And maybe pulling some of it with our greener brush. There's a lot of pulling right there, but I also kind of like it. See if maybe moving it a little bit might look kind of nice. Maybe I can prop it up. That looks cool. I think I like how that's gonna dry in a really cool way. So there are some pulls that are gonna take a really long time to dry, but it's dry enough in certain areas that we can keep going. And I'm gonna take my ultramarine blue, which inadvertently has a lot of neutral tint in it, and finish those pupils in the eye. I'm kind of going towards away from those reflections because I can kind of fill those in with water. So I'm just going to do that on both sets here. Then just going to take a brush with some water and move that pigment up into those reflections. And I'm even lifting a little bit to get a waterier mix. Next to those reflections. And then making even some of that iris a little darker, letting those bleed together a little bit. And then I'm going to come in with neutral tint. I said this is a size 2 round brush. So for some of these more detailed areas, I'll come in with a smaller brush. And then just like with the pupils, I'm coming in with water and letting that pigment kind of fade into the rest of the shape. And then let's see, let's do a little purple, still with my size 2 brush. And maybe I can get some of these shadows around the eye looking good. I see she has got a shadow right on the top there that kind of comes around, and then right on the eyebrow too. So not really kind of where I put it earlier, lifting that out a little bit more. And leading into more of a pinky purple too will help us avoid that green, especially when we're putting that purple on top of the gold. And I'm just using some of that purple right in the iris too, just as a shadow at the top. So I want it to be dark enough up there. And then blending a little bit into the white of the eye as well, so it's not too harsh. And then sometimes I have to lift. Sometimes I put too much down. So I usually use lifting in conjunction with adding in water too. And I'm going to do a similar thing on this eye with the purple. And I think too, when trying to think about painting fast, drawing time can kind of get in the way of that a little bit. So I have to be patient because it's worth it. Maybe I can make this shape kind of neat and watercolory by dropping in water and having that pigment kind of float out to the edges. That would look kind of cool. So I have azo yellow, and there's actually hematite genuine in here, but that's not really necessary. Just a lot of azo yellow and a little bit of cobalt teal. There might be some ultramarine in there too. It doesn't really matter which blue you mix it with. And what I wanted to have ready too for myself is a wet brush, water only. So when I'm looking at putting this highlight color down, I'm going to put it right next to the existing color. So I'm not going to come in and paint it on the white. We're going to leave that white. We're going to come in right next to these colorful shapes. And I'm kind of negative painting too. And then we're going to blend those in with our wet brush. And the cool thing is, since we want green, when it mixes with those quinacridone gold areas, it'll actually just look even cooler. So I am lifting and adding water just to achieve the value that I'm looking for with that green. Not too dark. I want it to be really bright since it is on the highlight side. Plus, adding water just means cooler things are going to happen. So I'm also allowing these shapes to blend where I think they look good blending. I'm gonna lift, this was just too dark. This is too dark for me. I'm gonna lift some of this out. It's on the highlight side, so we don't need to go too crazy. Putting in that pretty green and then softening it in to the shapes that we've made. And now I'm just kind of looking at it, seeing if there's anything else I really want to do. I think a waterier mix of that green could look cool. And I don't want to go too crazy. So it's one of those things that it can look really cool and you're going to want to put it everywhere. And if you do, just try to catch it maybe and lift a little bit while it's still wet. So that's kind of what I'm doing, lifting little bits of it so it just has this little hint of green if I went overboard. That'll really take care of it for the green. I'm just kind of considering if I need to add more purple on the shadow side for a shadow color. Maybe with a watery mix and a pinker purple too. A little bit heavier mix than that probably. And I'm almost kind of negative painting some of these shapes, softening them in too. This shape, I don't know, it just feels too dark to me. So I'm just going to lift a little bit of that off. The cool thing with cheaper papers too with this, like this, I've found, I don't know if it's the case with every brand, is that it almost seems like lifting's a little easier. And I think that's because of the cellulose. It's just not as absorbent, so it releases the pigment back a little bit better. And I just want to give these eyes a little love. Blend them if they are a little too stiff. So I'm going to try and lift some of that pigment off. At least right in the highlight side of the eye. And then drop in some water and maybe it'll make some a cool little highlight right there. I love this shape. That looks really cool. Okay, so for my purposes for practicing a fast painting for this event that I'm doing, really I would be done right now. I would just add some splatter and maybe come back in with my pen. Because it's going to be a really fast painting event. And so yeah, now I can just kind of come in and just see if maybe more pen in certain spots. Might look good without making it too crazy. I'm gonna blend in that. Those shapes just look a little harsh to me. The other thing you could do, and I might do, especially for the event, would be to do Posca pens. They're opaque and they would go over watercolor really well, and I think that could be cool for adding whiskers or if I really need to rescue a white area that I might have overpainted. So the possibilities of pen and ink are really just a lot of fun. You can just do a lot and just let go a little bit more. Embrace that sketchiness of it, that quick feeling. So I have to sign it. I love the way, especially on a sketchy painting like this, that I love the way a signature looks. So I do want to make sure it's dry, otherwise the pen won't go on very well. And I'm trying to think where it would look good. I'm going to put it right here, I think. And not too big. And it'll look really cool once it's dry. Do we need more cobalt? I think we do. I feel like we do. I'm going to grab a little water from there. I feel like a little bit more on the shadow side of the eye would look good. Did I say cobalt when I meant quinacridone? I've been up for a while. Well, I should say I was up late last night. But it's been a really nice day. I never regret it unless I get a migraine. Staying up late to get stuff done. It's a good thing. Okay, I think it's a good sign that I just kind of want to stare at it. I hope you loved painting this orange and green and purple and pink dog with me in this fun pen and ink style. I would say my top tips for this style of art would be to save whites, those highlight areas, even if they're not really white in the animal, save them. You can always paint more, but it is hard to take paint away. And then make sure you trace or do whatever it takes to get that drawing accurate, and spend the time you need on the eyes and the nose. And then you can play around and have a little bit more fun with the rest of the portrait. Let me know your favorite part of this painting in the comments. I will see you in the next video, and I wish you very, very happy painting.